everybody, it's Judith Bowtell, the host of Aligned and Thriving, your podcast that looks into all things to do with work-life balance. In that, we also examine why some work is fulfilling, why some may not be that fulfilling, and what you can do to change your circumstances as well. And we do that by having conversations with fantastic people all around the world who are taking different approaches to work and life and expressing their values through both. And today I'm thrilled to be joined by Fikret Zendeli. Hi, Fikret.
Hello, Judith. Thanks a lot for the invitation and this conversation that we're going the next couple of minutes. Really looking forward to this and share some experience.
And Fikret is coming to us today from Macedonia, from Skopje, which is the capital there. We've caught him on this side of his work week, because I believe the other side of it, you go back to Switzerland, which is where Fikret was born. So he studied in Zurich, although I see from your CV, you actually did some of your schooling in North Macedonia. So we'll hear more about that. And by trade, he is a civil engineer. He also has a postgraduate degree in business management. And also, I think this is really interesting, a diploma of advanced study in psychology. He's the founder of a civil engineer company called Brion, which has offices in Switzerland and Macedonia, hence the dual traveling lifestyle that he has. And he's also the founder of Social Friday, which we're going to hear more about. So I won't spoil any of that right now. But Social Fridays is an innovation in how we approach work and our time management and how we give meaning to both. He's had a whole lot of recognition around this, but I think giving that information about where it's been recognized before I actually talk about the project will be quite confusing. So maybe we'll jump into that. What is Social Friday?
Social Friday is an initiative actually to make more meaningful use of the least productive time, which is in fact Friday, in particular Friday afternoon. So there are a lot of studies around this topic. And the latest study was about this phenomenon, actually was presented around 2 months ago, done by the Texas A&M University. Many of us already know, actually, that Friday is the least productive time. The idea behind Social Friday is to make better use of that, to dedicate that time, that least productive time, to a social cause with your team.
Fantastic. Well, we'll hear a bit more about that as we go into the episode. But I just want to let you know that it's mostly operating in Europe at the moment, but it's been recognised by Fast Company as a world-changing idea. Fikret has spoken at TEDx in Zurich, and it's been an editor's pick on YouTube. It also does a lot of other sort of speaking events for companies, including some of the biggies out there, Adidas, Meta, Google, and L'Oreal. I'm really fascinated by the idea of Social Friday. It got in touch with me soon after we started Aligned and Thriving, and I just went, Social Friday, oh yeah. Doesn't everyone do that? I feel like here in Australia, maybe it's been a bit altered by work from home and COVID, etc. But I always feel like we've got the culture of Friday afternoon. It's early knock-off time, if you can, and time to get out and focus on your social obligations, maybe your family or your work friends or whatever. But as I said, we'll get into this a bit more. But I want to start with Fikret, as we start with all our guests. What have you done lately for your work-life balance?
The same as most of the time. So I try to keep a daily routine, which helps me a lot. Certain structure in life. That means for me personally, get up early at around plus minus 5 a.m., do my exercises, do my meditation, have some me time between 6 and 7 o'clock where I just can listen to the birds outside and just enjoy my coffee and maybe read something without any influence from outside. So it's a very good way that helps me a lot to start my day in a calm way and to structure myself and to give a direction to my day, and then create a list, actually a structure, like what kind of goals do I want to achieve that day, and then try to follow that list. That's actually a lot of sport as well. So cycling, And yeah, that's actually it. So nothing very spectacular, but it helps me a lot to stay grounded and balanced and quite calm, even the surroundings sometimes isn't that calm.
I think that's a great practice of having calm me time in the morning. And quite a few of the guests on this program have spoken about how they've either had that in the past or they've reintroduced it or they try and build it in, especially when they're working over different timelines or know that they've got to be working late into the evening or they've got other commitments on, but just making sure they have some time for themselves, even the mornings. It means you've given yourself something before the day takes everything away.
I think it makes quite a huge difference when you know, okay, you start your day with something that is already good for you, and without feeling the pressure like you're missing out something, like you should respond to someone during that time, because during that time, at least for me, nobody is asking anything from my side. So it's really something I can be for myself. I don't have to feel bad about it. You know?
No. Yeah.
So,
I used to do that when I worked at the local swimming pool, long time ago, and when I was more active, and when I had a very active dog, there were times when I was getting up very early. Yes, making time, creating rituals and practices in the morning. It's a fantastic thing to do.
Absolutely believe in that it's super, super important, and it's getting even more and more important because the amount of distractions that are around are getting just bigger and bigger these days. So we have to start to live more into the present moment and to be more aware of that present moment and what is going on around us and what does good to us and what we should maybe try to avoid a little so that we can stay clear.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you run your own company. So you're an employer. You've got multiple clients in the construction sector. So you're doing engineering and design work.
Services.
Yeah,
yes.
Great. So that's fairly high pressure, I would imagine.
A very demanding, have a huge amount of responsibility towards your people that present you the trust, so the clients, and the same also towards your team. So then you need to be extremely precise in what you do. Actually, you need to be very much on time, especially when you work for a demanding market like Switzerland with all the quality requirements. It is a very demanding topic for me, but of course for my team, for everyone involved now. So how within that circle where we are, within that chain, how to create a healthy balance so that everyone can be best. So it's a challenge. I'm not saying I have the perfect recipe for that. But there is at least a lot of awareness for that topic that it is super, super important not to burn out actually, and to take some measures so that we can still do our best and that we can perform with joy as good as it's possible.
Yeah. Did you develop your values of quality, commitment, the various things that take to set up your own business to achieve what you have achieved? What did you learn as a kid growing up in Switzerland and Macedonia as well?
Yes.
Mostly Switzerland? Yeah. Tell us the early story.
Oh, actually, I have to make a short correction. So I was born in Macedonia. I grew up with my grandparents and my mom, my brother and my sister. We had a little farm. We used to have one cow and usually one horse.
Oh.
So to produce some milk. And so I know all the field work. So what it takes to feed the cow and the horse. It was quite an interesting childhood, blessed actually with a lot of warmth and love actually given by my grandparents and my mother, since my father used to work in Switzerland back then. It was a very normal thing for a lot of people in our surrounding back then. And then the war in Yugoslavia started in the early 90s. So my parents decided that we need to move to Switzerland to join my father. So then I continued there with the school. A lot of respect that we received from the people in the town where I grew up. But one of the main lessons that I got during that period actually was from my father that told me like, hey, if you have something, make sure that also your neighbors will be good. Because they also need to feed their children.
Yeah.
So if you have more, let's say that the average, then you need to give back to the society, to take care of the society so that everyone has more, actually. In Macedonia, so where I returned back from Switzerland in 2010, you see a lot of cases on daily basis, with people that are less fortunate, that are less blessed, that are fighting every day to make it through. So that picture is on daily basis. It is visible. And also the question in your head, okay, what's my part in this whole story? What can I do? What is my responsibility? What can I do in the scope of possibilities I do have to make a change in this community? And I think here, every one of us do have a responsibility. So we are part of this society and we have a responsibility.
Let's take a quick break.
Don't miss a single episode. So subscribe to Aligned and Thriving now to unlock a world of inspiration and practical strategies. And if you have subscribed, why not check out our IG account or join our community to navigate your own way to a happier and healthier working life.
It's so good to hear. I was thinking Bernie Sanders would be very proud of you. That it's not the accumulation of personal wealth it doesn't create a functioning society. It creates wealthy people, but unless there is a sharing of resources, it doesn't work.
Judith, I believe there is enough on this planet for everyone.
Yeah.
So it's, as you mentioned, so it's all about how we share it, how it spread the whole wealth. And here to create a change, a lasting change, a long-term change, I believe that we need to work on awareness. And we will never be able to stop few people having more than the average. I think it was like that in the past of the history. It's now, and it will be also like that in the future. But how can we include these people that do have much more than they actually need? How can we include them in the society, in the community, so to take more care of the community? I think that's the more interesting question than to think about ways how to stop them to make more money, because you will not achieve that.
But helping people to find interesting things to do with the money that they have that are more interesting than buying another car or another property. I've shared about how Lynn Twist is somebody who inspires me in her book, The Soul of Money. She's a fundraiser for the Hunger Project and things like that. And she talks about how she approaches the mega wealthy who she does raise money with. It's first kind of that conversation of what are you going to do with, you've done a big deal, you've sold a property, you've sold a business. What are you going to do with the money? And they go, oh, invest it or do this. She goes, yeah, that's fine. And he thought about it. Would you like to see some photos of my last trip to Africa? Would you like to see some other ideas about what people are doing with that amount of money and what impact you can make? And all of a sudden, people get interested in the possibilities. So I guess that's where we get to your passion project, if I could call it that, which is Social Friday. So we're going to explore it out a bit more. So it started with an article you read about British Airways. So what was that article saying?
It says, as I said before, that what most of us already know, that people do switch off on Friday, and particularly on a Friday afternoon. And while I was reading that article, I was really smiling. I thought to myself, like, if that's the case at British Airways, it will be hardly different in my company. So how can I use that fact in a more meaningful way for my company, but also for the society? And that's where the idea of Social Friday got born.
Great. So did you start it in your own company?
Yes, I think that has also something to do with the mindset. I think we should try at least to lead like and be like a role model. Instead of to invest too much of our energy and to complain and blame all the others for everything what is not going well, I think we should try to use that energy and to lead by a good example within the scope of possibilities that we have, let's say now, even as a small company. So yes, we started in our own.
Fantastic. I love to see it starting in a small company, because we do hear stories about what bigger companies do achieve, but most people work in a small organization. So it's good to see models that work. And so Social Friday got born, and where is it up to now? What are some of the projects you've completed or you're working on, or how's it going?
I think there is still a lot of work to bring this idea, this initiative to a place where I personally believe it belongs.
Yeah.
I think it should become a standard because it makes a lot of sense. So if you dive a little bit deeper into the whole story, whole idea, concept behind, and what can be achieved through such a simple idea, actually. It is mind-blowing. It is amazing. So we started back then in our company. We visited different nonprofit organizations in our local community, animal shelters, elderly homes, organizations that were taking care of kids with disabilities, etc. So many different institutions just to see and to figure out where we do match best. Because it is a normal thing. Even the purpose is maybe good, whatever, but with some people you do click, with some people you click less. So we wanted to know more behind these institutions, who is leading them, how they are functioning, how they are organized, and to see if we can get closer collaborations and longer term collaborations with these institutions. And so far, I think we have some good results achieved with these collaborations.
Yeah. So now it's not just Brion, it's not just your company. There are other companies involved as well?
Yes. Correct. In Austria so far, in Norway, there was last year some activities closer to your continent in Hong Kong. So we are getting closer. We are getting closer to your place. So I hope we'll manage to make it also to Australia. And I'm very optimistic that the day will come where Social Friday will get also a topic in Australia.
Yeah, like I'd say, I feel like it's a natural fit because my Fridays, I think we have the bill. I don't know. I'm one person. I'm talking of my background. But like my father he lived a bad man lifestyle. He was an accountant in the 1950s and 60s and 70s, and he worked in Melbourne, but he did a lot of lunching, did a lot of out with the boys and things like that, and out with clients, etc. And Friday afternoon was definitely Social Friday for my father. And he would normally come home a bit tipsy from his Social Fridays, which started with lunch at the East Melbourne Hotel and move on into the rest of his afternoon and evening. And he'd come home, and often on Fridays, we'd then have takeaways for like fish and chips for dinner, because we were also a good Catholic household, so you had to have fish on Friday. And then he would have generous night, which would either be he picked up some lollies or something or chocolates or whatever on the way home, or he'd give some money to my brothers who'd go down to the local shops and pick up some stuff for us. And so we had generous night. And so Social Friday is embedded in my DNA as a time, and not a time to work. When I was at school, obviously I had to go to school on Fridays, but university, never had a lecture on a Friday afternoon. That was my time, or time to go out with friends. And even now when I run my own business, I don't see clients on a Friday, and I try and keep my Friday afternoons for me. Nowadays, I use that to go and work out and do things that are a bit more healthy than going out for drinks with mates, but it could also be that. But I feel like, there is a sort of a Friday afternoon wind down in our cities, a sense of it's quitting, the week has ended and we're allowed to treat ourselves a bit. But I also know that for many people, like the pub culture, etc., it's not where they want to be nowadays. I don't want to go and spend every Friday afternoon in a pub or something like that. So having an option to do something else and fulfill some of that values of contribution, of supporting others, of making a difference, of meaning and purpose is definitely something I could see myself getting on board, but also a lot of the people that I work with who are in the for-purpose community or want to be at least have that value of purpose as well. So I think it fits very well with the Australian culture, but other people may want to tell me I'm wrong. Yeah.
No, I think there are a few interesting facts. So the last survey that Texas A&M University did about this unproductivity on Friday was that there is an economic loss to the U.S. economy due to unproductivity on Friday of 1.9 trillion each year, which is a giant number. Now, let me ask you something. If we know about this giant number, and I didn't come up with this, so it's independent.
Yeah.
We as a society do not question the status quo more. Then the other thing, we know also facts about that loneliness is getting a bigger and bigger topic within our societies. The same in Australia, the same in the US. So in the US, they are estimating the costs due to loneliness of 155 billion each year.
Well,
In Australia, it's around between 2 and 3 billion each year.
Yeah.
So the amounts are huge. So we have a problem. We need to work towards a more connected society.
yes.
And my call to action is like, how about using that least productive time to increase the togetherness in our society? Now, some people probably will say, yeah, what will you achieve with few hours of gathering? I think we should not underestimate the power of a single minute sometimes that can be life-changing, because it's all about creating an opportunity to get a shift on perspective. Every one of us, no matter what kind of daily routine you have, sometimes you are struggling more in life, sometimes it's less. I believe everyone is bad. But when you get out there on these events, when you are in contact with other people that are maybe less blessed, you realize actually that your problems are actually not real problems. So that it's all here in your mind and the way of how we turn out the things, more positive or more negative. So during these events, there can be created a lot of awareness, social awareness. Of course, these events, and I believe a lot of companies will use these events for marketing purpose, for brand awareness, for as a team gathering with the social company, which is absolutely fine with me. I think it should be that way because the companies, they are obliged to also have some benefits out of certain activities that they do. And I'm fine with that. As an entrepreneur, I understand that part very well. At the same time, these events can be a huge opportunity for non-profit organizations to increase their visibility for their cause, to increase the amount of donations, word of mouth marketing, let's call it. So I see a lot of benefits. Absolutely. So I see a lot of benefits out of these hours. We just need to be brave to question this status quo of the least productive time because the facts are there. We can like it or not. They are there. So the question is now, what do we do out of that, out of these facts?
Yeah. So I'm quite privileged. I live in the inner city. I have a middle-class lifestyle, blah, blah. I don't have children. My time is pretty much my time. Partner, etc., and a business to run, do something about that. But what about when people say, look, I really just don't have the time to do this? If I was to have some time on a Friday afternoon, I would rather spend it with my family or with something I want to do, not more time at work or in a community thing. How do you address the question of the scarcity of time that often is running people's decision-making, whether it's real or not? And for lots of people, it's very real. But also when we are living in a world where time is seen as scarce. How do you talk to people about that?
Internally, so in our company, what is offered at the moment is the case like they can take a half day off on Friday if they do commit to a social cause the other half of the day.
Okay.
About how to trigger the people to get out there, to get connected to the community. Because I really think, as I said before, as a company, I do have a social responsibility. And one way how to pay back to the community is like to create a better understanding for each other. We have such a huge division within our communities, and these divisions and tensions are getting bigger and higher. So I think every one of us needs to do their part to create more togetherness in our society. So I'm trying to trigger the people with the fact of, okay, you can have a half day off where you can take care of whatever you want. But for that, you need to commit to a local social cause that you actually choose. So I'm not telling you like you have to go and support this cause.
Right.
You choose whatever you feel most comfortable about, but get out there and expand your horizon. Because that's also something that is very interesting for a company. If your people see the world in this direction and not in this direction, I think at the end, it's all about how to create a situation that is a win for everyone. And I believe that's the best approach. Terrific. I understand that a lot of people do not have the time. I understand that a lot of people do have family obligations and all the obligations that are included in life. But at the end of the day, we all have the same amount of time. It's very often about the priorities, how we set the priorities.
Yeah.
when it comes to companies, I believe that the companies needs to do the first step. I believe that the companies need to create this opportunity for their people, for their staff. That makes it easier for the people to step out of the comfort zone. Because if I tell to a team member, hey, get out there, go somewhere and support someone, then they will feel like, yeah, but should I? I'm a little bit shy, or I don't know what. But if you say, okay, this is organized by the company, we have set up everything with a nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
So you can just go there, meet the people and do the program that they have prepared.
Fantastic. Yeah.
How to make it as easy as possible to step out that comfort.
Yeah.
And once you are there, it starts to become really very easy.
I think that's fantastic that there's some leadership shown by the company. It's part of the DNA and culture of the company, and it's not just words on a wall. There is actual action. So if I was a small company, I'm me, but if I was back in the days when I was running small organizations, how can Social Friday, the movement, support me to set this sort of thing up?
I think we have prepared a lot of material, starting from templates, how to reach out to nonprofit organizations for the first contact, how to create a bigger awareness, how to do some marketing around your events, etc. So all these kind of templates, these guidelines in a way are there. Also, when it comes to match this Social Friday brand, let's say, with your brand as a company. So there are a lot of documentations, a lot of thoughts, experience around that. So we are here and really happy to help to any small company that maybe do not have the resources to think about all these little small puzzle pieces. We are here to share our experience in this whole journey, especially at the beginning. That's quite important. And very soon you will actually realize that it is not a complicated science, because I personally believe that doing good should not be a complicated science.
Yeah. So that's great. I love that as you said, you've learned how to do things. You've got the templates. You're willing to share them. And so nothing has to be recreated. And I love that it's about supporting companies to reach out to the not-for-profit sector. When we first started talking about the idea, I was having worked in the not-for-profit sector, and lots of people come to you with the best of intentions, and it can take up quite a bit of your time. And then it doesn't work out, or it puts somebody at risk or whatever. So I think it's wonderful that if you've tried and tested things that will allow organizations to be able to build a good, healthy relationship. Yeah.
I think we're working on this or implemented this whole initiative 7 years ago. So there is a pool of experience behind.
Yeah.
And still there is a lot of work that needs to be done. We are fully aware. So I'm already dreaming of further, like what can be done next and what should be done next. And that's actually the projects we are working on. So how to include gamification in this whole topic to increase social engagement and to become part of companies' DNAs and part of community culture. Actually, there is more ongoing behind the scene. There is a lot of work, but I love to do it because I truly believe in the impact that this very simple idea can have actually also on a bigger scale.
Yeah, connecting organizations together, partnerships. There can be mutual benefit in these partnerships, and just good stuff can happen when people can talk to each other. Yeah.
100%. So see at this point. So the biggest amount of donations happen usually during the holiday season, like a few weeks before the Christmas period. That's period where people or companies do donate. And when you have the biggest amount of flyers in your mailbox, actually, from nonprofit organizations asking for donations. But even I'm quite skeptical. If I don't know, then I'm much more careful. Should I donate something or should I? Because I don't know actually the background.
Yeah.
But during these events, I get the chance to get to know the people behind the nonprofit organization. Once they are in need for further support, then I'm at least much more willing and able to consider their requests and probably to answer in a more positive way than if I don't know them, then.
Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity to get to know each other, to create more awareness for our local community and to expand the collaborations even long after these Social Friday.
Yeah. I've ran small organizations. The last one I ran was Milk Crate Theatre. I had the privilege to be CEO there for a few years before COVID. And now they're led by a fantastic team headed up by Jodie Wainwright. and Margot Pilatus, but they work with people who've experienced homelessness and all the underlying causes of that, which include disability, addiction, recent arrival, all that stuff. It's a fantastic project. And but when I was there, we did make some great just connections with people in the local community who were running businesses, like one of the big developers in the area. He'd probably go, "Oh, evil," I'm crossing my fingers, doing evil, be gone, big developer. You're the cause of homelessness in the inner city. And it's always there. But also just when you talk to somebody as a person, and they were great. They were really supportive and they had space. We needed space. They had money. We needed money. They wanted to improve their brand in that area because they were seen as the evil outsiders. And yeah, it was a fantastic way of both our needs being met. But I don't want to say it in that sort of strategic way. It was a much more human to human. I could pick up the phone and say, "Hi, we need office space for a couple of weeks for being chucked out of our house." And that helped. And same with the local city council, who again, City of Sydney could be seen as a bit barriers to what have you and the building, developing side of it. But when I needed, we were having a dinner actually upstairs in the local town hall where we had our offices. And it was really hot night in December, in an Australian December night, one of those really hot nights. And we had no air conditioning or anything like that. And the guys from the city who had invited along to the dinner, and they rang me and said, "What are you going to do to cool the space down?" I said, "I don't know, open windows." That's not going to work. "I'll get you some fans." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I just hung up and went on with the day. And the next thing I know, this guy from the city had rocked up with fans, big industrial fans that we could run before the event to cool this room down enough that people could then have a much more pleasant evening. And it's just those sort of things that when people know you and know what you do and can help out in simple ways, it makes a huge difference to the not-for-profit and solving problems you hadn't even thought could be solved. So I just found this such an interesting idea, but I also love the simplicity of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fully with you, fully agree on what you said just right now. I understand that especially bigger corporations, they have the pressure, like they have to deliver numbers about the impact, about, let's say, anything you do. But I personally believe that we need to move a little bit away from the mindset of just business and numbers, because it's more about business and impact. And I think we should create the opportunity for people to experience the power of doing good, to feel the power of doing good, actually, and how good it feels to yourself. And yes, this might be an egoistic approach, but you need to feel good. You need to be good for being able to help the others. Because how will you help the others if you are not good? If you don't feel good, then how are you able to support the neighborhood? It's going to get difficult. So I'm against it to make complicated science about anything we do. That human touch is super crucial and important to me, because out of that, a lot of very interesting ideas can further develop. So if people meet for a good cause, a lot of amazing stuff can come out of that.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't stop that. So not to allow that to give a chance just because of we create some barriers, some administration, some complications, unnecessary complications, because at the end of the day, it's about people, to allow people to meet and to see how they can support each other.
Yeah.
While they use the least productive time. That is a proven factor.
So if there's anybody out there in my audience who works in a company or is just interested in Social Friday as a concept and wants to know more, where should they go?
We have a website. I can highly recommend. It's a fantastic country with amazing people, amazing food. Yeah. Some periods of the year also amazing weather. So anyone is welcome here to visit this beautiful country. But there is also a more modern way to get some more information. And we also do have websites here. So Social Friday, or I think that's the place where you can get some more information. And then also direct contact at welcome@Social Friday. So feel free to reach out to us. We'll try to respond as good as we can.
So we'll definitely have all those links in the show notes. So please feel free to check it out. It's really interesting to see the sort of types of relationships and the types of projects that have been going on. And as you can see, it's also the application, the concept is so simple, it can apply to many different geographical areas.
Geographical areas also, let's call it target group. We did a very interesting project with the school class in Switzerland, primary school in Switzerland, for almost 1 year with one class. So teacher did the research, let's say, on this concept and how to increase the social skills for kids in schools while using this Friday afternoon period for a social cause. And the results are actually amazing. So we have created a school subject, Social Friday. So on how to improve social skills of kids. And,
that's so needed at the moment.
There are so many unlimited possibilities what to do in a more positive, more meaningful way, just if we are ready to question the status quo of the least productive time.
Yes.
And if we are trying to think about ways, how to make better use.
The other thing is, because you can adapt this, it's so flexible to your own needs. So if you don't want to, obviously, every Friday, it's Social Friday in your company, and you'd want to do it once a month or once a quarter, that's also whatever works for you. But it's a sense of also being part of a bigger community as well.
I think that's also something we're trying to work on towards. Yeah. So this being part of something bigger, that's why we have these official events once every quarter. So every 3 months, which should be possible for, let's say, for a lot of people. With that move, we didn't want to do it only once a year, this Social Friday event on a bigger scale, for the reason we want to create a repetition factor into the whole story. And we want to achieve and to create a habit over time. Because only when we create a habit, I think then when real change starts to happen within our heads and minds. Yeah. So that's why we try to create a certain rhythm, which is not overwhelming, but doable for a lot of people out there. We are inviting everyone to join the idea and to do good in their local community.
And there's a lot of stuff that can be done that needs doing in every community. I live in an extremely privileged part of the world. I admit that. But there's lonely people in my community too. There are people who would love to have more involvement in what's going on around us. There's people who are still marginalised in even the wealthiest parts of our city. And in every community, there are people who will just want some one-on-one contact.
Absolutely. Somewhere they are better visible. Somewhere they are, like in Switzerland, they are maybe less visible. In North Macedonia, they are better visible, like who is maybe in need for support. But they are all around. There are people who are in need for support and for an exchange and for some good works at least. And I think it's really about time so that we create more awareness about that topic, since we are drifting towards a direction that I think is not doing healthy to any one of us, neither at the end of the day to the economy.
Yeah, but definitely on social cohesion. We've had some shocking things happen locally in Sydney, and which have saddened a lot of people in our community and frightened a lot of people. And there's a call for social cohesion, but it's also just not something that just happens. It's about the language you use, the way you talk about people, the way you might listen to things as well. There's an article in today's or yesterday's Women's Agenda written by a fantastic person, Violet Rubiletis, who runs Settlement Services International. So she's been running this welcoming organisation for migrants into Sydney for many years now. Just amazing. But she wrote just simple things about how othering, because one of the incidents happened in a Christian group, like not a mainstream Christian group, and it was seen as a Muslim Christian fight. It became a bit of a riot, and very easy to blame the Muslim communities for that, because or any sort of it's very other to the white Christian communities of us, or just our white communities, and it's so easy to just go Muslims bad. And that means the world becomes a very frightening space for Muslim women, for anybody wearing hijab, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a breakdown of social cohesion that we need to be aware of. And our simple actions that allow us to connect to people as human beings, rather than just a symbol of something you are uncomfortable around, makes such a difference. And that can be somebody from a different religion. ethnic background, race, different coloured skin, disability, sexual orientation, all sorts of things can make people other to you and discomforting. But getting to know somebody in those communities can create a different understanding and a more open-hearted understanding.
Absolutely with you. I couldn't agree more, actually, because obviously there are forces out there who are interested in this division because it's much easier to rule once people are divided, actually.
Yeah.
But I think it is within our obligation to work towards a more connected society.
Yeah.
Simply the fact, once we are together and we start to communicate, so communication and awareness is the key. So once we start to communicate, we realize like, hey, no matter the background you have or what kind of orientation you might have, we have so much more things in common than anything else, because at the very end of the day, we are all human beings and we all want a good and better life. And that doesn't mean that just because the other person is next to me with a different color or whatever, that good and better life is not possible.
Yeah.
But we need to work towards that to create these moments where people can meet and where people can exchange. It's today more important than probably since decades. So it is super crucial. It is, and it doesn't require complicated science behind that.
No.
To create a surrounding. And once they are there, they realize, oh, but he's also praying to God, the same like I do.
Yeah.
No matter if the Muslim or Christian or whatever he might be, or even if he doesn't believe in anything, then it's his choice. It's like free choice. As long as he or she doesn't do harm to anyone, to the community, it is his or her freedom. So, but people need to experience that. People need to get the opportunity to experience the real life and to get out a little bit more of the social medias and all the channels that are feeding us, unfortunately, not only with good news.
No, definitely not only with good news. Thank you so much for sharing all you're up to. What's next for Fikret? What's up next for you?
A lot of things, actually. So when it comes to my business, to Breon, we're finally moving to the new office. So I'm looking very much forward to that. Over a year reconstruction. Yeah. So finally that's that. So I hope I will have, after this reconstruction topic, hope we'll have more time that I can dedicate to Social Friday. There are a lot of things are on the agenda. I'm very much interested to build a platform, actually, a matching platform between giver and receiver, and to include gamification tools into the whole process and to work towards the promotion of this initiative. So there are a few things are in the pipeline. I'm very much interested currently and in first contact with a musician, actually. This might sound a bit strange, the musician and social engagement, but I want to create an official song for Social Friday, like an official hymn for these events, no matter where they might happen.
So like a We Are the World. Are you old enough to remember that?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I do. I know that song. I have a little bit of another direction of how the soundtrack should look like, but I think the pro is probably, he will hopefully figure out something very interesting. There are a lot of ideas. It's all about the connection to the, let's call it, right people. There is a lot of work done. There is a lot of work prepared already during the last 7 years. So it's not only that what's in front of the screen. There is a lot in the background done, a lot of prepared.
Yeah.
It needs just to get out there. And that's something that I'm working on. That's at the moment. And I believe I will continue with that my entire life because I really, really believe in the power of this project and in the power of possibilities that it can create actually for a lot of people out there and a better understanding for each other. And in days like these, that's something we really need. So we need more togetherness within our societies. It's worth it to work. It gives a lot of meaning for my life as well. So that's,
win.
I'm passionate about winning. So
So if you feel moved by the values of community, cohesion, social cohesion, connection, togetherness, all the things that Fikret has talked about, please reach out to him. You can contact him directly. And just before we went on the mics, and I'm so sorry we didn't get to record this, he was explaining the meaning of his name. So please tell us how you got your name. It's a great story.
So back then in the 80s, actually, my aunt was traveling to Istanbul. So while she was, I don't know, having a walk through Istanbul, through a bazaar there, she catched up this name, Fikret. And a few weeks before I was born, she came up with the proposal to my parents, and luckily they took it. I think the meaning of this name has a Persian, Arabic background, and it means something like idea, rich on ideas and thinking. So I'm very happy actually that they choose this one. It was a perfect fit. There are a lot of ideas in my head that I want to realize, that I'm really passionate about to realize. So it's a difficult name to pronounce. So I had many experiences in Switzerland. When somebody would ask me for my name, I first would take out my mobile phone, write down my name and say, look, this is my name. Because obviously most of the people would ask me like 2 or 3 times, like, how do you pronounce your name? And once I was like fed up. So I said, okay, I have to create a method so people won't ask 2 or 3 times. And so I would write it down and say, this is my name. The meaning is a good one. I love it. And I'm very grateful for everything, what my parents did to me, for all the lessons and for all the love that they gave me. They are a huge reason where I stand today in my life. I had luck, and I just want to spread some of that luck to the world out there.
Yeah, it's no good you being in a good place if your neighbour is not. So I think I'm going to remember that. And thank you again for your time. And we look forward to hopefully catching up with you again at some point to hear maybe about the first Social Friday project in Australia. Okay, so thank you.
Thanks a lot. And I'm very optimistic that we are going to have a Social Friday as well in Australia. It's a matter of time.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And thank you so much for joining us here on Aligned and Thriving. If you want to know more about this project, my passion project, just check out the show notes, check out my bio and etc. there. And if you've got a passion project that you want the world to know about, please let us know. We're really happy to have a bit of a chat as well about that too. Okay, take care, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Don't miss a single episode, so subscribe to Aligned and Thriving now to unlock a world of inspiration and practical strategies. And if you have subscribed, why not check out our IG account or join our community to navigate your own way to a happier and healthier working life?